Hello and welcome back. It is lesson 99, course 1, Saxon math. We're looking at fraction, decimal, percent equivalents. Fraction, decimal, and percents are three ways to express parts of a whole. You can show equivalent fractions, decimals, and percents in a table. An important skill is being able to change from one form to another. In this lesson, we'll ask you to complete the tables that show equivalent fractions, decimals, and percents. So for example, if we have 1/2 as a fraction, we also know what it is as a decimal. We also know what it is as a percent. If we know what it is, if we know 3/10 as a decimal, we can find out what it is as a fraction, what it is as a percent. So let's try that real quick. How do you find out what this fraction is as a decimal? Well, in order to do that, I just take, for number 1, I just take 1 divided by 2. 1 divided by 2 is simply this. I can add a couple zeros. I can add as many zeros as I want. Decimal comes straight up in the answer. 2 will not go into 1, but it will go into 10. It'll go in there 5 times. And I subtract that, and there's nothing left over. So that means as a decimal, it is 5/10. As a percent, all you have to do for a percent is multiply by 100%. Remember, we've done that before. And if you move the decimal over 2 places to the right, you get 50%. If you have 3/10 as a decimal, wow, guess what? If you know how to read this decimal, you already know what the fraction is, 3/10. But if you didn't know that, you would have to take that 3/10 as you have to look at it like it is over what position that it actually is in. So like in this case, 10 is the denominator, 3 is the numerator. So that's really all you have to look at. 3, and it's in the 10th place. So because it's in the 10th place, that's all you need to know. What is that? What's the percent for 3/10? Multiply it by 100%. If you multiply 3/10 by 100%, remember that's moving the decimal over 2 places because there's 2 zeros, moving it to the right because we're multiplying. The decimal will be here in the original position, and it's here, and you throw a symbol on it, it's 30%. If you have 40%, what does that mean? That means the same as 40 over 100. That's the same as 40%. What does that reduce to? Well, it's the same as 4/10, and 4/10 reduces to, both of these are divisible by 2, 2/5. So I know what it is as a fraction pretty quickly. It's also pretty quick to know what it is as a decimal. This is taken away, and I move the decimal once, twice to the left. See that? It's like it reminds us that there's 2 places I need to move that decimal, and it's like this points in that direction once, twice. So in this case, the decimal would be this, 4/10. 4/10 as a fraction is the same as 2/5. Remember that 4/10 was reduced to 2/5. So let's try this. These are the only ones we had before the quiz. So all you need to do is take 3 divided by 5 in this case. So if you've got 3 divided by 5, 3 divided by 5, the decimal goes right here. And you add a couple zeros. Decimal's right here in the answer. This would be 0. 5 will go into 36 times. Multiply that, you end up with 0 left over. That means your answer for the decimal is 6/10. As a percent, what is it? 60%. What about letter C? If you have 8/10 as the decimal, what's the fraction going to be? Well, 8/10 isn't the final answer because it can be reduced. This one's divisible by 2, this one's divisible by 2. It would be 4/5. That would be the final answer for that piece. And what is it as a percent? Good job. If you said 80%, you're right on track. If you're at 20%, what would it be? Let's, instead of doing letter E first, let's go to letter F, just because I can see very clearly what that is. What is letter F? If it's 20%, what is it as a decimal? 2/10. Now that I know what it is as a decimal, I know how to read that decimal properly. It's not 0.2, it is 2/10. So that means I know what the fraction is, except that that has to be reduced. And what will it be? Good. Okay, if we have 3/4 as the fraction, this might be something that you know what that is already, but if you don't, you just have to take 3 divided by 4. What is that as a decimal? $0.75. And then if you know what the decimal is, it's pretty easy to know what percent. What is it? 75%. Good. If you have 12/100 as a decimal, what is it as a fraction? They're both divisible by, it looks like 4. If I divide this one by 4 and this one by 4, I end up with 3/25. That would be the best for that. And then this as a percent. 12/100 as a percent. Good, because you just move the decimal over 2 places to the right. If you have 5%, what is it as a decimal? Let's start with that first. Once you know the decimal, it's pretty easy to jump over to the fraction side. What's 5% as a decimal? Ooh, good job, you guys. Way to go. Remembering that 1 0 needs to be there as a placeholder because you're moving the decimal 2 places over. See this? It's like an arrow pointing once for that point and twice for that one. So it's like this: once, twice. You got to put a 0 in there as a placeholder. So what is this? If you're going to read this decimal properly, instead of saying 0.05, what is this as a fraction? 5/100, except that reduces to, in this case, both are divisible by 5, 1/20. So 1/20 is the same as 5/100 is the same as 5%. All right, very good. I think you're ready to do the quiz. So go ahead and complete that on Go Formative. You need to change 4/5 into a decimal and a percent. You need to change 6% into a fraction and a decimal. And you need to change 1 7/10 into a, looks like it'll be a mixed number and a percent. Okay. And remember, it's just the same thing. You always just move the decimal to the right or to the left, depending on what direction you're going here. Okay. Good luck with that, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you get everything done by midnight tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.